Hello there, TooManyGames, and for all those watching this on YouTube, I swear this is part of the Kingdom Hearts marathon in some form or fashion. It's gonna need a little time to work on that chronology. So, Sonic Mania. It's almost here at the time of this video. I'm excited for it, as are many others. But when I started watching some of the first gameplay videos uploaded, I noticed something peculiar. Now, I'm not talking about the dazzling graphics, magnificent soundtrack, or the fact that the Death Egg grew up and attacked you as early as Green Hill Zone. No, it was something I caught inside this monitor here. Hey, I recognize that. That's the combined ring from Knuckles Chaotix. I think at one point I asked if you guys wanted me to look at this game, but you all insisted on Sonic and the Secret Rings instead. Thanks for that, by the way, but why not? This TooManyGames is Sonic themed. You couldn't ask for a better time. So before we head into the future, let's step back into the past with the only time Knuckles ever got the spotlight for himself. Let's take a look at Knuckles Chaotix. Alright, before we head into that, I think it was appropriate we talk about Knuckles Chaotix prototype, Sonic Crackers. I mean, why? Why was it called that, even if it was a prototype? I'm digging the ASCII title screen here. It's almost like we're playing a really old Sonic game for MS-DOS systems, but that's all we have here, as the other options don't really do anything of any importance. You can only play this on an emulator, obviously. It shouldn't be too hard to track down, but I wouldn't recommend wasting your time. There's barely anything here. A major gameplay mechanic of Knuckles Chaotix was the ring tether, binding you and your partner together until death do you part. Marriage, in other words. But it's clearly still in rough development here. Sonic and Tails can screw physics all together and lose their minds. There's no sound effects whatsoever, bearing a couple of music pieces. And need I say, oh my god, Sonic, your arms! The shit's contagious too, apparently, as Tails likes to lose his limbs too. What is this world doing to them? And after 3 minutes, the stage abruptly ends, playing the game over music oddly. And afterwards, the game, oh, Sonic Labyrinth! Oh, no, we're not dealing with this shit again. Knuckles Chaotix, released in 1995 for the ill-fated Sega 32X add-on for the Sega Genesis. I will never understand why they didn't just make this a Sega Saturn launch title, as that was released just a couple of months later in America and was already out in Japan in late 1994. True, Sonic's not the star in this, but nobody gave a flying shit about the 32X. It's only something you get nowadays for novelty's sake. It's why I got mine. Have you ever seen some of these adverts for the 32X? Mommy, what are those two Sega machines doing? They're making an arcade system, dear. Wow, even Sega realized the thing was basically having intercourse with the damn console, and if you thought that wasn't subtle enough, oh yes, more, faster! What did you think we were talking about, you little degenerate? Console fucking. You were talking about console fucking. Still, the team thought it appropriate to release a Sonic game for the add-on to give it some sort of support, but this felt like very half-hearted support, as I think even Sega themselves thought the game was gonna flop. Why else would they have Knuckles take the helm? I'll tell you why. It's so he can act as the fall boy in case people didn't like it. It's the same reason why they would give Shadow a gun and not Sonic. They're all test subjects, every single one of them. Knuckles Chaotix takes our rougher than the rest of them echidna to this mysterious island where Dr. Eggman is set up base alongside his companion Metal Sonic. The Doctor has taken interest in the island's so-called Chaos Rings. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's the 7 World Rings again! What is this thing? Okay, well, there's only 6 rings instead of 7. They're basically the Chaos Emeralds of this game, and that's enough to pique the interest of Eggman. So he sets out to collect them all, prompting Knuckles to step in and put a stop to his nefarious plans. But Knuckles isn't the only one on the island, for several interesting characters have shown up for their own personal reasons that are never elaborated on unless you had the manual. Mighty the Armadillo, Espio the Chameleon, Charmy Bee, and Vector the Crocodile. Team Chaotix, plus Mighty. Now, I'm sure most are familiar with their Sonic Heroes counterparts, but Knuckles Chaotix is where they made their debut, minus the personality traits. Vector isn't a great detective, Charmy isn't murdering my eardrums, and Espio sure as hell no ninja. I can see him just fine. Shit, Mighty would make for a better ninja because I haven't seen his ass since this game. Mighty the Armadillo, in fact, originated from the arcade-only Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. I would love to play this at one point, and I hear the game is unsurprisingly hard, but this is where Mighty debuted, and in Knuckles Chaotix, he's essentially the not Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, just look at his sprite work. He's the original Sonic fan character. Everyone else is not too far off from sharing Knuckles' movesets, who can once again glide in midair and climb up walls. Now, Vector and Espio can climb up walls too, while Mighty just straight up wall jumps. Vector has this short air dash that can be aimed in all 8 directions, so that's kinda neat. Charmy, on the other hand, he just takes this hammer and is like, He shatters the game in half, he can fly, and unlike Tails, he never tires out and he can dash in whatever direction he pleases, and that dash can also destroy enemies in boss fights. I got a feeling this is who the developers used for beta testing, because with Charmy, you don't have to put effort into anything. I'm struggling to see what makes Espio unique. Like, I think he can climb walls the fastest, at least that's what I got from playing him, but other than that, he's got nothing else. He can't glide, and I guess he could change colors while remaining still and really looking like he doesn't want to be here. In fact, no one looks like they want to be here. Not Knuckles, not Mighty, not Espio. Charmy's Charmy, and Vector is too distracted with his headphones. The hell is he listening to? Knuckles Chaotix takes these characters through Eggman's base of operations, the new Trojic. What the shit is this? Well, it consists of 5 zones total, which I know doesn't sound like much, but every zone contains 5 whole acts apiece. Mother of God. Now, the zones are chosen at random via this roulette wheel every time you complete a single act. I guess to help alleviate the monotony, but unfortunately it doesn't mean much, for these zones are monotony incarnate. I'll explain that in a second. Mechanically, Knuckles Chaotix is not much different than your standard 2D Sonic game at this point. There are shield power-ups, rings to keep you alive, invincibility, speed shoes, and some variety of secrets. There's these giant rings scattered in every stage, and they don't lead to special stages, but rather these short and confusing diving sequences where you try and grab rings. The problem here, besides the control being awful, is that your rings are drained the longer you stay inside, so it can end up detrimental to your total ring count, which you want to stay high if you want to enter the special stage at the end of the act, because like Sonic 1, you need at least 50 rings for the portal to appear. Now, to give some honest-to-God credit to Knuckles Chaotix, I think these special stages are legitimately interesting. It's a combination of the classic half-pipe from Sonic 2 and Blue Sphere from Sonic 3, with a difficulty curve I find just right. You gotta collect a certain number of blue spheres before reaching the checkpoint, but if you don't meet the quota, you're not immediately kicked out. Rather, the stage continues to loop until you either get the required spheres, fall off the arena, or run out of rings, which acts as a timer. The more rings you collected before entering the special stage, the greater amount of time you have to complete these instances, and that's a great way to give the players a reason to collect and hold on to as many rings as possible in the stage, because come on, besides needing the extra hit point, which you only needed 1 ring to do that, and maybe scoring some extra lives, was there any reason to grab as many rings as possible in earlier games? This game attempts to give the rings a greater sense of purpose, and it's not like there are any lives in Knuckles Chaotix anyway. In a way, it's kind of progressive like that. Though individual control doesn't feel quite as tight as the Genesis games, there's still a close second, so a lot of what I can do in the other games I can do here. I don't like how they nerfed the spin dash though, and I know why it was done, but whenever I attempt to use it, I'm only reminded of the main thing that keeps me away from this game. Before the start of every stage, you can head to this crane game and select your partner. You can't control the crane to your liking, and the character slots like to shuffle around a lot, so choosing a preferred partner is a matter of chance a lot of the time, and if you're not careful, you can end up with the 2 joke characters of Knuckles Chaotix, Heavy and Bomb. Now, I don't mind Heavy as much, because yes, while he is slower than erosion, he's also completely indestructible. One of my favorite things to do is simply grab him and plow through enemy forces like a hot knife through butter. Bomb, on the other hand, no. There's nothing special about him, no benefits whatsoever, and if he gets hit, he has an explosive reaction that can end up hurting your ass. Like, no shit, if I end up getting Bomb in the crane game, I reset the game most of the time. But let's be real here, no matter the partner, the foundation of Knuckles Chaotix is inherently flawed. So following up from the prototype, you are forever tethered to your partner, and completing these stages require that you use the tether to get both characters across whatever slopes, loops, or multi-layer level design the game places throughout. A concept easy to grasp, but in execution falls flat on its 32-bit ass. Unless it's for a basic speed boost, which to be fair isn't hard to do, the tether will end up working against you rather than with you. You can make a tighter than normal jump only for your partner to yank you back down and possibly collide with an enemy. If one player isn't going as fast as the other, both will slow down to reach a compromise. It's like playing a Sonic game with a physical handicap. Like if you were playing Sonic 2 co-op, but you literally couldn't proceed unless both players performed optimally at the same time, which is next to impossible with this sort of gameplay. And honestly, I don't see the point. If you master the tether mechanics, the most you get is top speed and height, but those were things you can easily achieve in previous games with springs and the spin dash, without the need for this rubber band. Again, needless handicap. Throughout the whole game, the tether will continuously yank the control away from the player, whether you're rolling down slopes, throwing your partners towards something, or those who know me know how irritated I get when I'm not in complete control of my actions, because I would rather it be my fault for not beating whatever challenge the game throws at me, instead of having to deal with the repercussions of something clearly not designed to work with the high-speed antics of classic Sonic the Hedgehog. And adding insult to injury are the stages themselves. It's bad enough that there are 5 acts instead of the standard 2, but besides the change in scenery, which are admittedly gorgeous, it's like Sonic CD made sweet love to the 32X. Hey, I could be as lewd as I want, didn't stop these assholes from doing it. The problem is that these zones lack proper identity and end up blending in together. It's a mundane adventure because there isn't so much in enemies, you only fight something resembling a boss at the end of the the 5th act, which are completely pathetic, and there's not much in stage hazards. Often the biggest obstacle is just getting the tether to work for you correctly, and I think the developers knew that, so as an apology, they decided to remove other means of harm from every stage. There are no set pieces to gawk at, no reason to stop and look around. The most interesting the game ever gets is with Amazing Arena, where you have to find the switch to turn on the lights, otherwise you can't complete the stage. It gives me a reason to explore and get invested in the level, but again, not for 5 straight acts. That's just draining no matter what the gimmick, and for every other occasion, I'm simply holding right, left, and jumping when I need to, because there's almost nothing that can get in my way or interact with besides this godforsaken rubber band. Not even the final boss leaves much an impression. First off, it comes out of nowhere. How do you go from a small blue robot to sweet Jesus? On the plus side, it doesn't take longer than an episode of Sonic Boom for Metal Sonic to transform into this, but despite the size, he's dead before you know it, and it's not a very appealing reward for going after all the Chaos Rings. In fact, the bad ending is much better in my opinion, where Dr. Eggman incinerates the whole island. I mean, finally, something interesting. And I always found it funny when Sonic and Tails show up in the end graphic when you complete the game, as if they were saying, "Is it over yet? Kiss my ass, Sonic. I'm just happy to be here." But seriously, Knuckles Chaotix is worth about as much time and effort that was placed into it. So nothing, in other words. I mean, to its credit, the game looks and sounds just fine. Until Sonic Mania, you won't find a 2D Sonic game that has such a vivid color palette. I think it beats Sonic CD in that department, and that game was already— the colors feel so bright. The game doesn't go completely crazy with the 32X enhancements, with the exception to the special stages, which look ripped straight out of Star Fox. And at times the game's frame rate dips, leading to questionable hit detection and unpredictable color errors. Oh shit, look alive, it's Super Vector, hero of Mobius and long lost brother to Big the Clusterfuck. And if you got the time, try out the stage select code and pick these assortment of stars as your main character. Now, I don't know who the shit this is supposed to be, but with his ashy white fur and burning red eyes, I'm dubbing him as Numbles of the Coke Fiend. Look for his grand debut in Sonic Forces this holiday season. The soundtrack is great, as I would expect from the franchise. I mean, who doesn't love Door into Summer? Now that's a great piece of music there. Not my favorite from this generation, but pretty catchy and atmospheric in its own way. It's not every day we get good atmospheric music from Genesis. Use the sound test if you must. Look at this, even Amy Rose thinks highly of the soundtrack. If you want a Sonic game with the partner mechanics done right, then you play Sonic Advance 3. If you're willing to put up with everything else wrong with that game, I still don't like it. Anyway, that's it. I think I'm all set for Sonic Mania now. Oh shit, I never did explain what the combined ring power-up in Knuckles Chaotix did I? Well, if you grabbed it and then took a hit, you can grab all your rings back instead of having them scatter all over the place. That's it. Hey, that was enough for me to finally give this game a look-see, and I want to thank you guys for all stopping by. Now, I know I'm neglecting my Kingdom Hearts duties, but I think we can find a compromise. Bam! There you go. That should make up for it. With that said, thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night. And take care.